Welcome to the ACE RMO 2024 Palmerston North webinar. My name is Georgina. I'm the ACE RMO consultant. We're going to start off with the opening karakia, and then I'll give everyone a brief outline of today's webinar.
I'll just open us with a karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi aki ana te atakura, he hio, he huka, he hauhu, te hei mauri ora.
So thank you everyone for taking the time to join today's webinar. We'll move on to the panelists' introductions very shortly, and then we're going to have a presentation run by the panelists, and then our RMO reps will tell you a bit more about the experiences working as a PGY1 at Palmerston North Hospital. Towards the end of the webinar, we will have a live Q&A session, and finally we'll close off with a closing karakia. Just a reminder, all questions can be dropped in the chat box below in the chat in the Q&A part of the screen. You can do this throughout the webinar, but they will only be answered during the Q&A session towards the end of the webinar.
Kia ora, I'm Christine Wood. I'm the manager of the medical administration unit here at Mid Central.
Kia ora, I'm Kate. I'm one of the PGY1s at Mid Central.
Kia ora, I'm Regan, one of the PGY2s here at Palmy.
And kia ora koutou, ko Janine Stevens tōku ingoa. I'm the Director of Medical Training and one of the PES's pre-vocational educational supervisors here at Mid Central.
I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation. Hopefully you can see it on your small screen.
Welcome everybody. We're really pleased to be meeting with you today to tell you a little bit about Palmerston North and Mid Central. And we've got a wee bit of a presentation to go through, and we'll kind of share the chat on the slides as we go through. And then as we've said already, there'll be a time for RMOs to tell you a little bit more detail if there's more things they want to say, and then there'll be a chance for you to give us ask us some questions. So Palmerston North, for those of you who don't know where we are, we're in the lower North Island. We're less than 2 hours from Wellington now that the new roads have opened up. Palmerston North, we reckon, is New Zealand's best kept secret. People don't realise how great Palmy is, and actually it's only 30 minutes to the nearest beaches. There's lots of things to do in and around the city. We've got more cafes and bars than anywhere else per head of population than anywhere else in New Zealand, and there's lots of things to do. So outside of work, it's a good buzzy little place, and it's easy to get away for weekend getaways. Here's just some photos of our lovely city. And there's lots of really good tracks. There's a beautiful bridle path all the way along the river, which you can cycle or walk or run. And then there's lots of hiking and other activities, and big mountain bike park up the back across the river. Okay, so where are we and what do we offer? So Mid Central is in Palmerston North City, and it's located in the heart of the Manawatu in the lower North Island. The beautiful Manawatu River runs through the city with a riverside walking path and an esplanade and lots of other outdoor areas to enjoy. It's 30 minutes to the beach. The Ruahinis and the Tararuas abut our city, and so there's lots of hiking and tramping and stuff in there. 2 hours to Wellington, ski fields, and only a little bit longer to many other great destinations. So easy place to live in and an easy place to get out and explore in the weekends. Palmerston North boasts more cafes and restaurants per head of population than anywhere else in New Zealand. There are no traffic jams. How long does it take you to get to work, Regan?
think it's 4 minutes these days. It used to be 5.
Right. Have you moved closer? You just walk faster. And what about you, Kate? How long does it take to get to work?
Probably 5
Yeah.
minutes.
And even if you live on the far side of the city, it's about 20 minutes on a bad morning when you have to stop a couple of times for traffic lights. Lots of people do live close, and it's quite a flat city, so it's easy for biking or walking to work. The airport's really close to the hospital. There's good accommodation, lots of gyms, lots of sports groups, lots of different cultural groups that you can join. Just some photos of some of the activities available in the city. And we've also signed up to a sports passport. So when you become an employee, you can sign up to the passport, and that gives you lots of discounts. So you pay a flat rate per week, and that gives you access to a whole lot of different gym and recreation facilities. Some of our lovely restaurants and bars. What's your favourite place to dine, Kate?
Probably Brew Union.
Brew Union, yep.
Little Savannah's got like 12 different espresso martinis, so that's my guess.
It has a great menu.
It does.
Yeah.
That's a really good menu.
Yeah. Birthday sort of restaurant.
So the region, Te Paihaora o Ruahine o Tararua, is the Māori name that our district was gifted. And so we are bounded by Peka Peka in the south, Apiti in the north, the Tasman Sea on one side and the Pacific on the other. So we're quite a big rural area in our district. And Palmerston North City itself has got a population, I think, of about 180,000 nowadays, with, actually, no, that might be the region's 180. Yeah. The city's about 90,000. Yeah. So, but it's a growing area, and especially some of the more southern areas of the region are growing quite exponentially. We've got about 350 beds, and we provide most clinical services. So we don't do plastics, cardiothoracic or neurosurgery, but we do have a tertiary service for oncology. So because of that, we get some really interesting pathology. There's about 170 SMOs and 180 house officers and registrars, and it's a really collegial place to work. Everybody knows each other. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about how you find it working here?
Yeah, I mean, I really love working in Palmy. I think the main, I guess the people that you work with makes a big difference to how you find your work, and Palmy is a really collegial place to work. From your medical colleagues to the nurses, I seem to spend half my day just talking with other people, and I think that really brightens up the day and makes the work really fulfilling. Yeah, so I love working here.
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same. I think that compared to working in a bigger hospital, it's so much easier to refer here because you know everyone so well. So the regis that you're referring to are people that you play netball with or basketball with after school. You go for a drink at the pub, sort of thing. So it's not that small where you feel overburdened by people. They're not big enough where you're sort of just a paper runner. It's that perfect size where you can feel well supported, but also have the good relationships with your regis and your consultants.
And you've done a bunch of runs since you've been here. So talk about some of the runs that you've done.
Yeah, so I started on vascular surgery, which is very cool. So you get like a good gen surge / vascular flavour. Here, there's enough staffing that if you want to go to theatre, you absolutely can, but you're not pressured to. Surgery is not your thing; you don't have to go there. And then the hands-on sort of subspecs you could do a respiratory. So here, you put in chest drains. It's not something a reg does. You learn how to do it yourself here. Gastroenterology, I've tried gastroscopies myself. I put the Sardi's drains in, so it's something that in most other bigger centres you don't really get the opportunity to do. And also it's quite easy to get the runs you want. I think the RMO unit is quite flexible with whatever career path you kind of decide to pursue. So there's plenty of options to do psychiatry, sort of. And as Christine said, we offer virtually every service, so you get a chance to do whatever you want. And
Kate, you just finished your first run, but you're in orthopaedics. How did you find that?
I mean, I loved it. I'm quite surgically inclined, and I think being a medium-sized centre is really good for someone that really likes surgery. I mean, I probably got to go to theatre averaging once or twice a week for the run, and yeah, got to get stuck in and just felt really supported to learn more and to get to do practical things. And then even on respiratory now, which I've just started on, it's really quite a different specialty, but also lots of opportunities to do practical skills, which I don't know that I would have that opportunity if I was in a bigger centre.
Cool. Thank you. So this next slide just talks about some of the runs that you can do here at Mid Central, and we do have a good range of runs. Obviously general surgery, orthopedics, urology, general medicine, ENT, ophthalmology, geriatric medicine, respiratory, and from Q4 you can also do obstetrics and gynecology and psychiatry. And we also take into account what people might be wanting to do in their PGY2 year. Things like O&G, PEDS and ED are all 6-month runs, and if someone's wanting to do 2 lots of 6-month runs in PGY2, then we will look at supporting you to do your community-based attachment in your 4th quarter, so that you're not in a situation where you then can't do 2 6-month runs. So once you've made your run choices for the following year, for your PGY2 year, we would then work to change your runs around so you can do your community-based attachment in that year. So things that are additional in the 2nd year, we've got a medical education house officer position now, and that's working really well. So they support the intern teaching program. It's a 0.5 position, and then that in most circumstances that doubles with either medical or surgical relief depending on your preferences. You can do ED from the beginning of PGY2. O&G, as I've said, you can do from the last quarter of PGY1. Radiation oncology, medical oncology and haematology are all available. Cardiology, renal, community-based attachments, and we've got several different general practices where you can do your community-based attachments. In addition, we've got a community-based attachment with St John, and then we've also got a community-based attachment in our hospice. And so they're all really popular community-based attachments.
Here, or we've got another slide about?
Possibly not.
I was just going to say about the community-based attachments. We've had community-based attachments longer than the Medical Council has required us to have them, because we think it is a really important and really interesting way to broaden your, I guess, your horizons in terms of it makes you a better hospital doctor. But what we sort of aim to do with those is our plan is to have more community-based attachments than we have interns needing to do them. So we're trying to offer you choice so that you can choose a community-based attachment that suits your preferences. So the St John one is unique. Currently, I think other areas are trying to follow our lead and set that up. So it's been really popular, particularly with people that want to either do rural medicine, GP, anaesthetics, ED, general medicine. People have really enjoyed seeing how first response medicine is delivered in our communities. In terms of our GP attachments, we've got large practices, we've got small practices, we have a Māori provider that has just started taking interns, and that's been really successful. I've got about 3 others that are interested. We've got a service up at our university campus that can also offer CDA. So there's so many different options. And yeah, I think anybody that comes to Mid Central will find a CDA that will at least align with part of where they want to go. So I think we do CDAs really well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The other thing that you can do in the second half of PGY2 is pediatrics. And then in PGY3, we have an ICU SHO position, and not every district has that type of position. And it's a really good position if you're looking at either an ICU career or further down the track for anaesthetics. So it kind of sets you up for either of those as a career. And if you were looking at that, you would probably do ED at some stage in PGY2, potentially the St John ambulance run, because it gives you lots of acute medicine and then sets you up really well for ICU and later on anaesthetics if that's your interest. So I'll just talk a little bit about the sorts of things we want to see in your ACE application. It's really good to put a cover letter that specifically says why you're interested in coming to Palmy. We like to see that so that we kind of get a feel for, you know, your motivation to come to Palmerston North, what your interests are. It's really good we want to make sure that our house officers have a well-supported environment. So, you know, having family and friends here, or family who are nearby. Quite often people will say, well, my family's in Wellington, but I don't want to live that close to home. But, you know, knowing that you can go and see family in the weekends and stuff is really good. That there's things in our city that are going to fit with your interests outside of work. In your CV, it's good to have a little bit about you as a person. If you want to put a photo in your CV, that's fine, but make sure it's a professional photo, not one at your best mate's 21st after you've all had a few drinks. It's also good, I like to see what sorts of things you do in your spare time, you know, what your hobbies are, what part-time work you've had while you've been studying or when you were a high school student. Because again, one of the things we really want to make sure is that you've got some things that are going to give you a well-rounded life. The first year as a house officer is always really tough, even when you think you're well prepared. It is always a little bit different from being a trainee intern. And so it's good to have some outside activities, and we want to see, you know, those sorts of things. Doesn't matter what they are. Some people's outside activities are doing research or gaming or, you know, other things. It doesn't have to be a physical activity that you're interested in outside of work, but it's good to know what those are. We don't interview, but as I say, you know, we're looking at your application letter to get a feel for why you're interested in us, and we absolutely welcome visits. We've got a few people visiting over the next few weeks. If you want to come and visit, then just reach out to me by email, or alternatively, if you just want to have a phone call, happy to have a phone call or a Zoom, a one-on-one, so you can ask all those questions that maybe don't get answered today. We will also consider part-time. So if you're thinking that you don't want to be a full-time house officer, then we're happy to consider that, but we would really need to know that ahead of the ACE ranking. So if you're thinking you want it to be part-time for, you know, maybe you've got a young family and you want to have a bit more work-life balance, or you just feel that part-time would work better for you personally, do specifically reach out to us so that we can take that into account when we're going through the applications. And we're also happy to rank couples. What else makes Mid-Central special? Janine, you might want to talk a little bit more about this, but I think we've worked really hard on our teaching program.
Yeah, we have, and I think it was something that we knew needed improvement, and so we worked towards that. I think Christine mentioned before that we've got a medical education house officer, and I think that has been absolutely pivotal in us improving our teaching program, because that person helps to develop the teaching program. It's somebody who is a PG, usually a PGY2 doing that. Sometimes we've had PGY3s do it as well, actually. So they understand what your needs are, and will try and develop a program that meets your needs. They're also there for collegial support, and the last person that was there, I remember them talking to me and saying they just field lots of questions from the first years, a lot of just friendly collegial conversations about what do I need to know about this, or if you've got a bit of a gripe or things haven't been so good this week, it's somebody else to talk to. So I think that position is really pivotal in making your teaching program better. We do have both a standard sort of a PGY1 program, but we also have sessions that some sessions that can be a little bit more tailored to a PGY2 audience. So that happens as well, thinking about what you might need to build on when you get to PGY2. Is that enough?
How have you found the teaching program so far, Kate?
Yeah, it's been really good. The sessions, quite a range of different topics, which are all kind of, I guess, just interesting, relevant things that it's good to have a bit more knowledge on. Like, we've had some really good sessions on like infectious diseases. We have a really good hematology CNS here, and she gave us a really helpful session. So the teaching's been really good, and it is protected. So we can like put away our pages, and usually I think pretty good attendance.
And I think that's another role, another really important role with that medical education house officers is that they can take your pages. You can have it protected. And that was another aim of setting up that position. So it seems to be working well.
And also once you're in PGY2 in particular, if you're doing other runs other than medicine and surgery, they have teaching too, but in particular, like ED's got a really good teaching program. Psychiatry, you have your own teaching sessions in psychiatry. O&G and PEDS have their own teaching programs and stuff. So you're getting run specific teaching as well as the more generalist teaching opportunities.
And there's general medicine grand rounds, there's surgical grand rounds. During the week as well that you can come along to. Most of these sessions are, well, those ones that I just mentioned and the PGY 1 and 2 teaching are happen during lunch type time. So that also helps with the protection of the time. You can have your lunch whilst you're learning and having conversations with your colleagues and learning about stuff.
Have you made it to many of the PGY2 teachings this year? I know it's difficult when you're in other runs.
I think this time of year a lot of them are like kind of recap lectures, but I always have the opportunity if I want. I guess the only thing I'd add is like all the teaching sessions are given by registrars and consultants who are passionate about the topic. It's not just a chore for them to give the tutorial, so they volunteer to give these chats. So they're very eager to teach you, and the people you know so well already. So you never feel sort of stuck to ask questions or anything. It's a very sort of open flow sort of teaching style, which we learn a lot from.
Cool. So one of the other quirky things that you may or may not know about Palmerston North is that we have a very high incidence of malignant hyperthermia, and that's because there's a large Māori family based in the Otaki region, which is the southern part of our district, and that family has a genetic predisposition to the MH, and so we run the national program for MH in terms of people being tested to see if they have got malignant hypothermia, and also going forward from that, obviously making sure that they have the appropriate anaesthetic equipment for when they may need to have surgery, which is, pretty interesting. So orientation at Mid Central, we have a week of 4 days of orientation. We start on the Tuesday and go through to the Friday. And we spend quite a lot of time doing a bunch of the things that you're probably going to want to know before you start on day one. Kate, do you want to talk about some of the things that you found helpful from orientation?
Yeah, I think orientation was great. We did a buddy long day, which was really, really helpful to get to feel a little bit less nervous going on to your first long day on your own. Also getting some practice with the ultrasound to do IV lines was quite important, and also just some really helpful sessions about emergencies and common prescribing problems. It was a really good session, and also just a good chance to kind of meet all of your colleagues.
And we also run the ACLS course during orientation week. So you start with a fresh ACLS certificate, which means that that's not something we have to try and fit in during the year. We start the orientation program with a pōwhiri, and that's well supported with people attending to welcome you to our district. And then we finish on the last day with kind of a shared lunch. And you get to meet your pre-vocational educational supervisors and some of the other people that you're going to be working with. The other thing we did this year for the first time, but it was really popular and well received, and we'll do it again next year, was we put an extra house officer on every long day for the first 2 weeks, which meant that everybody had access to a more senior house officer to go to if they had any problems when they did their first after hours duties. And I think that really helped people feel a bit more comfortable about doing those after hours duties. Sorry, I'm just having a little bit of trouble reading this. I guess that, yeah, some of the other things I think that make us really good, there are lots of learning opportunities on all our runs. I think both Kate and Regan are finding that they're getting the chance to do lots of learning. There's also lots of opportunities to step up as a registrar. So people will often step up into a registrar position from PGY3 if that's what they're interested in. We've got, we have lots of people do the ONG and or the PEDS diplomas. I talked before about the ICU SHO job, and I think that's a really good one that sets people up who are looking at an acute medicine pathway. This ED placements, neither Regan nor Kate have done ED yet, but they're really good, and people just find that they learn so much doing ED. The SMOs are really supportive, and of course you have an SMO working with you the majority of the time. The SMOs aren't on from midnight till 7, but apart from that, there's an SMOs on site. Lots of practical opportunities. As Kate said, you can go to theatre if that's what you're interested in. And obviously, as with all districts, you're entitled to continuing medical education once you have got through PGY1. You can start planning around that in PGY1 for your PGY2 year. And there's good support for people to do the courses that they need to do to set themselves up for applying for training positions. So we've talked already a little bit about teaching. It's Tuesday and Fridays at lunchtimes. We also have trainee interns who are based here for the year, and so they have a teaching program. And PGY2s also have some specific teaching programs. And we've talked about Grand Browns and other education opportunities. And we also have a really good library here with lots of online resources and very helpful librarians. So if there's something that you're working on, if there's something you need to know more about, or if you are moving into a registrar position and wanting to start studying for exams and stuff, we've got some really good resources here to support all of that. So there's just some photos of our RMO lounge. We've got 3 sleeping pods, and then there's also a computer suite which has got about 9-10 computers in it, where you can go. People prepare for handovers there at the beginning and end of the day, but also if people are wanting to study, they can come down there and study. So it's really good. It's very quiet. And then the lounge itself has got, sofas and TVs and jigsaw puzzles, which seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment. Everyone's doing the jigsaw puzzles, coffee machine. There's a couple of our RMOs are very good baristas. So if we play our cards right, they make us coffees in the lounge, in our office, which is very, very good. And yeah, so it's really quite a comfortable RMO lounge, and it's right next door to our office. And so I think the RMOs find that means that it's really easy to catch up with the RMO unit staff. It's usually pretty easy to get leave. We do encourage people to plan ahead with their leave, and especially for popular times, or if you've got something coming up in your career, or in your life, like your best friend's wedding or your mum's 60th or something like that, it does pay to plan ahead for those things. It's no use coming the week before your mum's 60th and saying it's my mum's 60th, I need the weekend off, because that's much harder then. But, things that in advance are happening, plan well ahead. And then if you kind of just think, I really want a break sometime this quarter, and you can just come along and say to Lindy, who's my colleague, look, I'd really like to have a 1 week off or 2 weeks off during this quarter. When would it work? And so if you've got flexibility, then we can be really flexible. Food, cafeteria, has got a range of options. And so, there are hot meal options as well as snacks and salads and sandwiches and things like that. Drinks, etc. And then when you get to do night duty, there's a system for ordering night food, so you don't just get the same thing. You can actually order your own bespoke food for you when you're doing night duty as well. If you get sick of the cafeteria food, or if you want barista coffees because they're not included with the free meals that RMOs are entitled to, then you can go across the road to Zest, or a little bit further down the road to Daily Grind, and even a little bit further again, all within a 5-minute walk, to daily cravings. So there are really good food options just close at hand. And then there's a cafeteria down by the main entrance, which is not run by the staff caf people. So again, they have a different range of food, quite nice barista coffees, etc. And if you're a Stones member or become a Stones member, you can also sign up to the meal pilot. So that means that you get an allowance for your food every fortnight with your pay, and that then you can buy your food wherever you want to at any of the options that are around, or just bring your own lunch. And that's quite popular too for people who want to just have a bit more flexibility, or for people who've got specific dietary requirements that maybe they don't feel are as well met by the cafeteria. So here's some photos from our last year's ball.
Oh. Are you in it, Brendan?
Exactly.
I might be around it.
Yeah. No, you are specifically in it.
Am I? Oh no.
So if you want to just flick through those, this just shows an example of a social event with lots of RMOs and other staff from the hospital. And it was a really fun night. But Regan, you might want to talk, and Kate, both about other things that you do with RMOs as well, in addition to, like you do socialise with other RMOs quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
So most of us who kind of want to play netball or basketball have a team set up each week. The courts are like literally 2 minutes from the hospital. It's a very easy drive. You usually play 6-a-side netball. Fairly competitive, but What else have you got?
Yeah, I think people are pretty, it's a pretty social environment. People catch up on the weekends, or even just at work. People are pretty keen to have a chat at lunchtime or after work.
I think there might even be a few quiz groups.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a rivalry at the moment. The TIs versus PGY1s versus PGY2s. The TIs came second last night.
There are quite a few good quiz.
So if quizzes are your thing, there's lots of opportunities to join. So this just shows, and as you may well be aware, both the MECA, so the Stones MECA has just been settled, and the RDA MECA is under negotiation at the moment. So these salaries are based on the RDA MECA, because that is the MECA that you will be offered. So unless you join Stones as a first or second year house officer, you will be offered the RDA MECA. But these are the current rates, so these will inevitably have increased, but just so that you can get a bit of a feel. And most of the runs that you'll do as a PGY1 or a PGY2, sorry, not a PGY2, but as a PGY1, most of your runs will either be a category D or a category C. So that kind of gives you a bit of an indication of what you might be looking at for income. Average cost of living in Palmy is pretty good, especially compared to bigger centres. Rents are still affordable. What would you be paying weekly for rent?
I pay 200, just over 200, but I live in a really nice house.
So it's not a scungy to live in student flat.
Wellington, but I live in a much nicer house.
I live on a street with a bunch of surgeons. I think I pay $215 a week, but that's an ensuite with a spa bath. So
yeah.
Wow.
Including power and light.
Yeah. And the other thing that is that a reasonable number of our first and second year house officers will buy properties. It's actually still a very affordable city to buy a property in, and regardless of whether you're going to stay here longer term, because often, of course, people will need to leave at some stage during their training for training opportunities, but it's a good place to get a foot in the door in the property market and buy your first home. Waking up at 7 a.m. for a 7:30 handover is probably just about realistic if you're a fast person in the shower. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a really fast commute. And even if you live on the other side of the city, which that's what this map shows, is someone who lives up Summerhill, they can still get to the hospital in a car really quickly. And it's not difficult at all to bike around the city as well. You do need to pay for parking at the hospital if you're parking on site, but for $10 a week you can get endless access. But there's also street parking as well. And then some people will bike or walk to work when they're doing just a normal day, and maybe only bring their vehicle when they're coming in for a long day because they'll be going home later, or when they're doing nights. So those are all options as well.
And Palmy has just got the first all-electric bus fleet.
Yes.
Yeah, first city in the country to do that. So I'm not sure about the new routes because they've changed all the routes as well, but all of our buses are electric. So and if you decided to live in Fielding or Ashurst, one of the sort of little satellite towns close to Palmerston North, they have bus services in from there as well. I can't vouch for how close they come to the hospital. I know a number go down Featherston Street, but I don't know.
The Fielding bus comes right past the hospital.
Yeah.
So if you did live in Fielding, it's very easy to catch the bus. But also if you're driving, it's like a 15-minute drive, so it's not far. And Ashurst would be not dissimilar, maybe closer to 20 to the hospital, but not much different. Yeah. So there's lots of options for where you might want to live. So this is just a pros and cons. So some of the pros are it's a very easy city to live in, everything you need, minimal traffic, collegial, good food, good housing market, both for buying and renting. The teaching program has been, we've done a lot of work to make that a really good teaching program for our junior doctors. Good opportunities clinically to do a range of different runs and move into registrar positions. Practical procedures are easier to come by than they may be in a bigger centre. The new RMO unit, the RMO lounge, the study area, sleeping area is really cool. And it will prepare you well for other bigger hospitals as well, because you get really good experiences here. And there's good mentors who will, support you really well while you're here. And the comment here that was made by an RMO is, I smile when I walk into work in the morning. The cons, well, we're maybe not at the top with our technology. Things are slowly improving, but we don't have a paging triage system, so we don't have smart paging at this stage, unfortunately. And we still waiting for MedChart. It should be coming before the end of the year. So by the time next year's first years start, we should have MedChart. We do have electronic sign-off now for labs, and things are moving towards a brighter future in terms of technology. We're not the biggest, bustliest city in the world, but we're a really livable city. It's really easy, as I say, to get around, and there's lots of things to do out of work. Anything else that you two would like to add about your experiences here, both in Palmy and at the hospital?
I'd say my biggest pro of working has been the people. I feel like compared to particularly larger hospitals where you notice the hierarchy a little bit more, I feel like here in Palmy, the hierarchy between consultants, registers and house officers probably as flash as I've seen out of most of the cities that I've kind of been in. So yeah, you get to know your consultants very well as your registrars, which kind of helps you out a lot.
Yeah, I think that would be the main thing for me as well. Like every time you walk down the hallways, you always see familiar faces. And I think that makes it a great place to work. Obviously, I was really nervous for my first house officer run last quarter, but just having such supportive medical colleagues, but also really supportive nurses, made a massive difference. And I think being in a hospital that's a little bit like smaller than a major centre hospital really helps to facilitate that, because you do get to know people a lot more and you feel a lot less anonymous.
So Kate, this time last year you were in the same position, you were thinking about where you wanted to go, and you were a TI here. What were some of the things that made you think that you wanted to stay on in Palmy as a first year?
I think I guess it's that all those things, like the people, getting those opportunities to do practical skills. I'm personally quite surgically inclined, so that was something that was really important to me. I think Palmy, whilst it's not a massive city, it is a good place to live. Like, it's really easy to get around, and and it has lots of nice cafes and restaurants. So I really enjoyed being here as a TI, and I even more as a house officer.
That's just a little edit, but at the end. So one of our pathologists has written a couple of books. So if you want to do some reading before you come to Palmy, there's some good ones for your reading list.
Oh, that was a lovely presentation, very detailed. Thank you. Thank you for to the team who put that together. So, our PGY1s, would you like to add anything for our applicants, like what would a normal day be like, or any tips for our applicants? Anything you want to add?
I was obviously on a surgical team to start off with. So you come in for orthopedics, you come in around 7 to prep the list. And then we have a handover. It's probably a lot less formal and stressful than a bigger centre, because the hierarchy is a lot less flat. So it's interesting discussions about the new cases that have come in. And then obviously we have our ward rounds. We also, on orthopedics, we do 2 sets of ward rounds. We have the orthopedic ward round, and then we also round with geriatricians, who are really helpful because they have a lot of input for older patients with ecophthalmic fractures, etc. And then for the rest of the day, it's kind of you have a lot of flexibility about how you get your jobs done. And if you're keen, for me, I found that there were definitely, if you got your jobs done fast, there were definitely opportunities to go to theatre or go to clinic, which I really appreciated. So overall, sometimes obviously you would be quite busy, but I think generally the workload was quite manageable. And yeah, I spent a lot of time obviously getting the job done, but I built good relationships with a lot of the nurses on the ward, and overall had a really good time.
Sweet. I'll just speak specifically to psychiatry since I've been on it for a while now, but 8:30 a.m. start, which is an absolute dream because I don't do mornings well. I think psychiatry here in Palmy, you do so much more actual psych work than any other centre. So on psych here, I do my own psych reviews and kind of discuss them with consultants. Most other bigger hospitals, you are just like the physical health person. So here you actually get to admit people on call, do your own reviews during the day, but there's also always enough time to kind of go to ECTs, go to court, you know. So I feel like most specialties here in the afternoon, you actually get to experience the specialty rather than just being kind of a generic house officer doing paperwork. So on gastro, I saw gastroscopies, colonoscopies. On respiratory, I saw bronchoscopies. Like, you get to get more exposure to the run itself, more so than just the generic kind of house officer life.
Thank you. Okay, we've got some questions. Do you allow late starters?
Yes, we do. It's good just to, again, if you're thinking you're going to be a late start, you might want to just reach out to me specifically and just say, look, I'm going to be a late start and these are the reasons. But we certainly don't discount late starters. Yeah, so if you're going to be a late start, just reach out and let us know before your application comes through to us, because then we've kind of got a bit of a heads up. But we had someone who started on Monday who was a late start.
And we've got quite staggered interns at the moment, because we have had a lot of people join us during the year for various reasons. So yeah, I don't think it requires a little bit more logistical planning from Christine and her team's part, and that's why we asked for some for a bit of a heads up, really. But otherwise, we accommodate it wherever we can. Yeah.
Thank you. And in the ACE application form, there is a specific question asking if you are available for the orientation week and if you are available to start on XX date. So if you are going to be a late starter, please note that in your application as well. How many positions are available on average?
So we ordinarily take 21, but it's likely we'll take more than 21 PGY1s in 2025, because it's our understanding that there's going to be a larger graduating class this year. So last year was a bit lower than average, and this year we believe will be a bit higher than average. We haven't had the graduating numbers from the 2 medical schools yet, but we would expect that we'd potentially take maybe up to 25 if required.
What are the top key things that you look for in an applicant during the ranking process?
Yeah, I think Christine's covered some of that. I mean, for me, I'm always interested in why Palmy. Why are you interested in coming here? It may be that you were impressed by what the RMOs have said today. It might be that you've heard good things, or you've got a friend who's a year or two ahead of you that's said good things. It might be because your family's from here, or it might be like Christine said, you're from somewhere close to here, but don't want to be too close to home, but want to be within that distance. I think that's probably the key thing for me. I was not born in Palmy, but I grew up in Palmy, and I went away for 20 years, and I've come back. I never thought I would come back, but I certainly have, and I'm certainly glad I did. And so I sort of understand that sort of draw to a place when it's got meaning for you. So it's really nice I really enjoy reading the applications and seeing that sort of stuff. I mean, you've all got an academic record. Usually they're exemplary and make me feel a bit inadequate, but and all of the amazing things that you all do outside of work as well. I think those things are really important as well. We want you to enjoy your time here. We want you to feel well supported. And that's not only about how we as an employing organisation look after you, but it's about how our city looks after you. Does it meet your needs? So, if you can tell us about the things that you enjoy doing I think then we get a sense for, we feel like you would enjoy being here. We want you to have fun. It's challenging. PGY1 is hard. PGY2 has its challenges. I mean, I don't think anybody stops having challenges at various parts of their medical career, but where you are and the people you work with and hang out with after work are really important, I think.
Thank you. Next question. Would a paired application significantly impact the strength of our application?
It shouldn't, unless one of you was particularly less strong than the other. So if one of you had really poor references, that would change the outcome. As you may be aware, in the ACE system, it ranks based on the lower ranking. So if we have a couple and one ranks quite high and one ranks less high, then the ACE system actually then puts you both together at the mark of the lower part of the couple. But yes, we certainly rank couples. One of the things that I would encourage you, I know that you have to declare coupleness on your applications as well, but it's also quite helpful to have that in your application letter, because as Janine said, we're reading a lot. We read all the applications and all the references and all the letters and look at the academic records and stuff. So it's easy to kind of lose that in the whole process. So it's quite helpful if you're coming as a paired applicant to actually both of you put that in your application letters. So, I'm Anne Smith and I'm coming with Ben Jones, and then Ben puts on Ben Jones and I'm coming with Anne Smith. That's very helpful for us.
And from an ACE perspective, make sure your preferences are both the same. If they're different, then we can't pair you together. The system will just won't allow it. So that's a very, very good reminder. Cool. So I think that brings us to the end of our webinar today. Thank you to all the participants and panelists. We'll close off with a closing karakia.
Okay, I'll do that. Kia whakaria te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara. Kia tūru ki whakataha ai, kia tūru ki whakataha ai. Haumie, huie, tai hie.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.